the Gaza was the big one. That was the big one. I'm just thinking logistically how it's supposed to look, or how it's going to work, and what it will look like, and who will be residents of it. And the fact that Sam Altman, Stargate, that was within day 2 of inauguration. He pulled Sam Altman in from OpenAI and just basically said, "This is what we're doing." So I suspect there is a big AI push, a big AI push by Trump and the Americans. So I'm wondering if that's what their plan is for Gaza. Okay, welcome back, everyone, to another Sophie and Linda's Moot Talks. So today we cannot not talk about Trump's plan for Gaza. In fact, just Trump's, resetting of the global system at this point, because it's only been a few weeks since he's been inaugurated, but already we're seeing such dramatic suggestions and policy suggestions from the Panama Canal to Gaza. So, Linda, because this is an issue very close to you, and of course for most of us who have witnessed what happened on October 7th and the aftermath, please tell us what is going on with this plan and what do you think about it?
Okay, first, what I think about it, we've been doing the same thing for decades. And the thing was ceasefire. After the ceasefire, billions of dollars going to Gaza. I mean, taxpayer billions of dollars, not private, corporation. Most of the money went to the coffers of the leaders of Hamas, who became billionaire, and to build tunnels and buy weapons. And then a year after, or 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years again, okay, Hamas attacks Israel, and it's like insanity. How long are you going to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result?
Well, they do say that's insanity, right? To keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
And like we've talked privately between you and me, if we had a business and things were not going well and we kept doing the same thing, at a certain point, you would come or I would come to you and, one of us would say, hey, it's not working. Let's think about another solution. And so Trump is, a lot of his supporters, among his supporters, there is a division regarding Gaza, because many of them support him because they think that Trump is an isolationist. Trump is not an isolationist. He's not an interventionist either. He's a realist. He's a pragmatist. He's a businessman. So he doesn't look at things like politicians look at things. He looks at problems and solutions. What is the solution that's going to work? And thinking out of the box, and that's why people elected him. Exactly for that. So that's my introduction to that, to that topic specifically. So what is he suggesting? He's suggesting that after Israel defeats Hamas completely, which means doesn't suggest for the American army to intervene on the ground. It's Israel's war today with Hamas, after Hamas declared the war many, many times, by the way. And then after, he's suggesting to take over the Strip. It needs to be rebuilt. It's totally destroyed. And not only by Israel, a lot of it has been destroyed by Hamas, okay? Because there was like door-to-door fighting, urban fighting and IEDs and all kind of bombings and rockets and everything. So to empty the Strip, rebuild it, and give the opportunity to people to live a normal life. So he's asking Egypt, Jordan, to take in the population, part of the population, which I think the most natural should be Egypt, because Gazawis are Egyptians. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is something that a lot of people, only those who know the history will know. Obviously, it was also under Egyptian control up until when was it?
67.
67 war, right? So a lot of the young people sitting there shouting wouldn't even know that. So yes, Egypt is a natural, what's the word? Not ruler, but natural, someone to take ownership or control, or administrator, I should say. That's probably a better word, administrator of the Gaza Strip, because they already were. So it doesn't feel like that's an outrageous solution. And Jordan, of course, we know was created for the Palestinians, as an alternative to the Israeli state. Those who chose not to stay within that were able to go to Jordan, and that was the created state for those people. Douglas Murray was very interesting. I saw an interview where he said, Queen Rania, with her multiple palaces in Jordan, I'm sure there's more than ample space for the Palestinians of Gaza to go and relocate there. But of course, what's Egypt and Jordan's response to this?
It's no.
Of course.
No, because I want to tell you something.
Of course it's no. It's always no.
If people knew the history, they would know that Jordan was, I think, created in 1946, if I'm not wrong. Britain was, controlling all this area. France, I think. France had Syria
and parts of Lebanon.
And Lebanon. And Great Britain, the United Kingdom, the British Empire.
It's the mandate. The administrators, they were the administrators of the territory.
Administrating this, after World War I, when the Turks
lost,
were allied to the Germans, lost the war. So anyway, when they gave that big land to the Jordanian, they knew it was a Jewish land, ancestral Jewish land. But the Jews says, it's okay. We'll take whatever, that tiny little strip that you give us. And then in 1947, the UN voted for the partition, which the Jews again agreed and the Arabs rejected. Okay. And then there was the creation of the State of Israel, followed by a war of independence, attacked by 5 countries, among it Jordan. That's how they thanked Israel. So for many, many, many years, the Palestinian cause, which appeared in the late 60s, but really goes strongly after 67, was a diplomatic weapon against Israel. Okay. They know there was never a Palestinian state. They know there was never a Palestinian ruler and everything. And that's why Jordan population, it's 90% Palestinian. So the King Abdallah, he knows exactly. It's not that he's not aware, but they still need that. Although his father during Black September killed, I don't know how many, 30,000. I don't remember exactly the number of Palestinians that is massacred. So they are here. Are they playing a role by rejecting and making believe the Palestinians that they're still defending their cause, or are they concerned that the population of Gaza has been radicalized so much that they don't want that in their country?
I suspect the latter, to be honest. We know how it went for Egypt with the collapse of Mubarak's regime and what happened there. We saw what happened there, and I'm sure the Jordanian government is very well aware of what's happening. And they see the radicalization north with Syria. They saw what happened in Iraq. They saw what happened in what's happening and what has happened in Lebanon. I think it's self-preservation for them. I think they're well aware that the radicalization runs very deep, and it's very hard to, undoctrinate, if there's such a word, or de-radicalize, as we say, these individuals. Look how hard it is in the UK and France to de-radicalize people. How do you de-radicalize a population that is also entrenched in a conflict that they believe is a conflict of existential conflict? They believe it's an existential conflict. I guess that is how they've sold it to the people, that if they don't fight this war with Israel, they will be obliterated. And along comes...
I don't think it's for Israel, it's an existential conflict.
I think, as their perception. I'm not saying what is real, but I think there are some Palestinians who view that if they don't keep fighting, they will be erased, which we know is not true. But in their perceived world, that's how they perceive it. I think the radicalization is quite deep in them.
Yeah,
right?
no, but I think the radicalization, it's not about we're going to die if we don't. Okay, we don't want a Jewish state. It's not that they want a two-state solution. They never wanted a two-state solution. We know that.
I think the evidence proves that. The behavior and the actions show that there seems to be no real commitment to doing this, because that would mean living alongside an Israeli state, which they clearly...
A Jewish state.
Well, a Jewish state. I think the evidence, looking at what's happened to the Jewish populations in the Arab world, into the larger Middle East and North Africa, we can safely say that there's a real anti-Jewish sentiment, and maybe they see it as spiritual, or it's religious, or it's part of the requirements as an honourable Muslim to be able to eradicate Jews from the land. I'm not quite sure where it comes from. We hear a lot of the talk, but I'm not quite sure where the basis for their...
In Morocco, no. In Morocco, I mean, my parents grew up in Morocco. No, there was not. They were considered Moroccan, whether they were Jewish or Muslims. I think it's very, I'm not talking about the Middle East.
Mm.
I'm, I'm talking about the rest of the Muslim world. I think that it's these past 30 years, something like that, 40 years, that the propaganda reached their shore, But listen, people want to differentiate the Gaza population from Hamas. The Gaza population voted for Hamas, supports Hamas, because the children are indoctrinated since their birth.
Mm.
So, and we see them, the violent rhetoric. Let's forget the actions, the rhetoric. And it's how do you undo that?
The same way we're going to be challenged to undo it across pockets of Muslim populations, even in our own countries. It's very hard. It's something that tell me why somewhere the Abu Sayyaf in the Philippines, what on earth is your connection to Palestine? Or Pakistan? How are you at all implicated by what is going on in that strip called Gaza? It is it's the Umrah, isn't it? It's a global Muslim brotherhood, literally, not the organization, but this sense of. And so I don't know. It's not even just Gaza is the least of our problems. It's everywhere, everywhere. So how do you de-radicalize an idea that the Muslim brotherhood is being trampled on by the West, by the Jews, by whoever else they want to blame? And that's their reason for existence. That's what I'm saying. I think they feel it's existential, that we as Muslims have a duty to protect each other. I think they want to protect each other and eradicate the threat they see as the threat. I'm not saying it's real.
They name the Quran. They name the Quran.
Some do, yes.
They say that the Quran, they have a mission, is to eradicate anything that's not Muslim, which is the unfaithful. I don't know how to call it. The miscreant. They have several words. The pigs, the dogs. It goes from there to there. So, but
this is the problem, though, isn't it? Because there are plenty of Muslims that don't ascribe to that extremist ideology. Yet the very book that they pray for, or the very religion and faith that they believe in, has been so, I guess, hijacked by a large group of people globally now, and are using that as a justification. And it's very hard now. The lines are blurred. You said, who's a Gazan and who's Hamas? How do we distinguish between a Palestinian who happens to be caught up in Gaza and actual active members of Hamas who adorn the uniform and then take it off and blend into the civilian population? It's very hard. I also would argue that there are a lot of Gazans who, perhaps under duress and out of terror, literally they're living under a terrorist dictatorship, can't speak. I'm wondering how many of those in the crowd that are jeering and cheering when hostages were released, how many of them felt that they had to demonstrate, a bit North Korean style, if you don't show your devotion enough, you're looking like a traitor and we'll shoot you. Does that make sense? So that's the bit I struggle with. That's the part I'm wondering, how many people under duress feel they have to show that support? Because if I don't show that I'm overly supporting my leader and Hamas, they're going to get me and my family. I don't know. I can't distinguish. That's what I don't know, how many are wrapped up in that.
There are some, obviously there are people who are Hamas. Fatah and Hamas had an ugly war when they took over. But the thing is that when I'm listening to children...
Yeah, of course.
And not only...
but when they do a dance, I saw a video that they were doing a dance, and the dance movement was throat slashing. Like
they trivialize death and murder, And it's not only in Gaza, because when you have ex-Muslims who talk, whether they're in Britain, in the UK, in France, in Germany, or whatever, and they say what they hear in the mosques: kill the Jews, we need to kill the Jews. You're going to go to heaven if you kill Jews. So they hear that since they are very, very, very young. Some of them wake up, and understand this is total madness. But
many don't.
But the thing is, okay, let's put it that way. No one can live next to savages. That's as simple as that. People who can, starve hostages and then bring them on stage with a certificate as if they graduated for something, and have one of them make a speech that is happy to see his wife and children when they know his wife and children were murdered that day. on October 7th. So it's a level of cruelty and viciousness that
it's malice.
the Nazi had the same thing. They would tell the Jews, no, we're moving you to the east. You're going to be with your family. You're going to work there. And if they had told them we're going to gas you, they would have fought in the train station, died for dying. I might as well
Die fighting.
Die fighting. They are the same. The deception, they're so deceitful. And I don't know how people cannot see it, but it's okay. The thing is, Trump is getting a stronger position from the EU, which was expected, led by Macron, which is expected, because Macron is with all the Arab countries who have absolutely no respect for him, by the way. They have no respect for Macron. Somebody out to tell him. Okay, they respect Trump much more than that. So we will see.
The plan itself, though, to relocate them, and the fact that it's a little bit blurry because he says, okay, there's no boots on the ground, no Americans will administer it. I'm not quite sure how it's going to be rebuilt unless it's just entirely private corporations going in there and rebuilding.
Oh, yes.
Like private tender. And the US administrates it. I'm not quite sure how you administer law and order when there's no troops on the ground. That's a bit blurry. The other part, of course, is what happens to the population that is to be relocated? Can they come back to a thriving Gaza once it's rebuilt? And he said no. But I assume if you want to come back in and buy a property and integrate into this new smart city, I assume he's going to build there, whatever the plan is, I don't think there would be an issue. So I'm just a little bit unclear because we're hearing labels of ethnic cleansing, forced displacement, ethnic cleansing. We're hearing these phrases when actually
it has been done hundreds of times when there is nothing. I mean, it's total destruction. You have to rebuild it. How do you rebuild it with a population and terrorists among you?
Exactly.
So what I think they want to do, what I think is the ultimate plan, I don't know. I'm not into their
in their heads.
Not in their heads. I think what they want to do is, because I think that Jordan and Egypt will take in the children and the women. I don't think they will take men in fighting age, fighting age men. So, and then they can get rid of Hamas. The thing is, it's incredible that these people would be ready to come to Paris, London, Berlin, Australia. They would be ready. Give them a visa, they would jump. But they don't want to go to Jordan and Egypt. Uma, you're talking to me about the Ummah. This hypocrisy is so... Pakistan, why don't you take them? Hello, Pakistan. Yeah. Take them. Indonesia, take them. Because the Free Palestine on the K-pop Twitter was like...
Yeah, all over.
Take them. Take your brothers. Take them. They're your brothers. You're crying for the children of Gaza and of Rafah. Because when we cry for our Jews, we do something. Okay? When the Jews in Ethiopia were being persecuted, the Mossad had a mission and we went and we took our Jews.
Was it from Sudan? Or was it Ethiopia?
No, Ethiopia. I think it was Operation Salomon or something like that.
Oh, they were coming from Sudan. No, they were coming from Ethiopia into Sudan and they were taken.
Yep. And they were taken from Sudan. So when a Jew is in trouble, we stand up and we go and we... What did the Arab world has ever done for the Palestinian except putting pressure on us, on France, on America, on Canada, on all this, Japan, on Australia, to give them money? What have they done for their brothers? They want them there. They want them there because this eternal refugee, because
it's proxy. They're just the perfect proxy for their interests. I mean, that's all it is. And I wish the useful idiots on campuses could see that you're literally promoting the helplessness of these people by using them as a proxy. They're being used as a chess piece or pawn on the game by all these players to convenience them and to give them leverage against the powers that be it Europe, Russia, or the US at this point. They can't see that. They're too stupid. At this point, though, I just think you're right. Israel, how long do you go on? How long do you continue living next to people who just continuously want to attack you and kill you and have done and prove they do? This isn't just conceptual. This is practical. Like, you look at the rockets flying left, right, and center. No one is questioning the role of UNRWA. Like, what on earth is happening here? Billions have been taken in order to build, well, we know what they were building. We're not going to go over and over again the same thing, obviously, but the ridiculousness is finally you've got Trump coming and saying enough's enough. I like how he says when Israel defeats Hamas, not if, but it's the when, which gives you almost a tacit approval and also a tacit, quiet support for what Israel's doing, which is obvious. And they are an ally. So much so that, I think the Americans have always been an ally of Israel, but now Trump in his own way has shown that you will defeat Hamas, and this is what will happen with this area. It's a bold plan. Like I couldn't believe when I heard it. I thought I was literally I thought he was trolling again, a bit like we're going to take over Canada. And you know what, Linda? We laughed and said people are falling for Trump's trolls. And now I'm starting to think there's a bigger plan at play here, because mark my words, in 4 years' time, I do wonder if Canada and Mexico, it's not just a free trade area. He's putting tariffs on these countries, using the economic tariff as a political weapon. I wonder if there is a greater plan here. Greenland will be some sort of outpost for military research. Canada, Mexico, and the US will merge into one giant state. I'm wondering. This is speculating. So maybe we have to listen when Trump talks. He's not just trolling anymore. Maybe there is some madness in there's what we call method in the madness of what we're hearing. So I wonder, because this has never been heard before. Since Israel's inception, have we ever heard anything like this where we're coming in, we're taking over, we're rebuilding it, and you can't come back? I've never heard that happen before. Have you?
The thing that...
Ever heard an American president speak like that about this conflict or this area?
Me neither. Because they were all prisoners of the State Department. Presidents, they have a policy, but within the framing of the diplomatic, how do you say that? Prison. Okay, so. The Middle East policies of the West has been such a failure from the beginning. 67, before 67, we didn't have the West Bank, which is Judea and Samaria, by the way. It's the Jewish land.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that part. We didn't have Gaza. We didn't have the Golan Heights. We didn't have all of that. They attacked us, okay? So every time they wage a war, they lose. And they cry. You cannot do that. It's not working that way.
But it's not just that they lose, they cry, they demand more. They have somehow managed to get the world's sympathies, policymakers, whoever is it, to take on this cause. I don't understand it. If you attack another country and you lose, you lose. You go away and you have to allow whatever the consequence is. This is the only conflict where those who continuously attack play victim, go back, regroup. And that's what Douglas Murray was saying the other day when he's saying, look, do you want to go back to the same policies? Okay, you defeat Hamas, you fund Gaza again, you plow more millions of dollars back into Gaza to rebuild it, just for them to rearm again and do the same thing in 3 years, which they will. Do you get what I mean? It's like a never-ending war. I don't know what people want as a solution. You say 2 states. Where would the 2 states be? They don't agree even where they would be, let alone whether they are willing to have a state that would have Israel as their neighbor. So how is this ever supposed to progress?
Clinton, who was in several of this negotiation, he said they gave East Jerusalem, Jewish, completely Jewish. It's where the wall is of the temple and everything. They were willing to give East Jerusalem as a capital, 96% of what they wanted, and they still refused. They refused it. First, I want to tell you why. I'm talking about the leaders, the Palestinian leaders right now. They can't have a state, like a legitimate state, because they're going to have to be accountable.
Exactly. And then they lose their cash cow. They have no reason to be funneling.
Exactly, the corruption and everything. Because right now, look, it's the Jew. We're fighting all the Jews. So like this, don't look at what I'm doing right now. Like Mahmoud Abbas, Arafat was worth billions. His wife, his widow, he's worth billions. All stolen. He didn't work a day of his life. If you're hopping on private planes to go meet leaders who are cowards, licking his boots. I don't call that work. But anyway.
But also, how many of the Hamas leadership are in mansions in Qatar?
And
how many? Mansions, like mansions, living there.
Their kids driving Maserati and Ferraris. And Michel and Haniyeh is dead. They killed him in Iran. But Michel and Haniyeh, they were two poor guys. They're worth $6 billion. I don't know how much. Okay. And that's our money. Our money. And I mean, you saw the US said.
The corruption is so deep. I'm so glad that it's coming out to the forefront now. We can see exactly how, what was it, her from the USA, she got there in 21, her net worth was something small, couple million net worth, maybe it's property assets or whatever. And by 2025, when she was sacked, when she got kicked out, it had reached something like 33 million. How does someone on $180,000 salary as a civil servant amass that much personal wealth in 3 years for US aid? I mean, it's just hands in the till constantly. I mean, this is just outright robbery of taxpayers' money. So how much of taxpayers' money has been funneled to buy Hamas leadership their mansions in Qatar? Via US aid and the UN, of course.
And the tunnels and the weapons. And the thing is that...
I could argue that those are structural expenditures for a war that they have sold their people they're fighting, right? I could argue that. We bought arms, we trained our soldiers, we bought uniforms, we built tunnels, blah, blah, blah. Explain to your people why you're living in a mansion in Qatar. That's what I want them to do. I want all of those leaders to explain to their poor, sorry Gazans or Palestinians why they have the privilege of driving around in Mercedes and living in mansions in Qatar and wherever else, and they have to live in squalor. That part gets left out every time out of this narrative.
But you saw the display of brand new cars.
Oh, I did, yes.
SUVs and phones and everything.
It's all for show. All for show.
Humanitarian crisis, I don't see it. The thing is that I've seen a few videos of Arabs in Gaza calling out Hamas and saying, we want the Jews back. We want Israel to take back Gaza. We can't. There is a guy, he said, everything is destroyed, so he doesn't have a house and nothing. He says, if Hamas comes back, they're going to attack again, and I'm going to go back again 50 years back. And so these people, and I heard the conversation between two in a phone conversation. And these people, they risk their lives when they talk like that. When Hamas kills a Palestinian and they say that they collaborated with Israel, they didn't collaborate with Israel. They just were critics of the regime. Everybody knows. I mean, listen, I've been thinking a lot about the people who support Hamas. I said, okay, they're naive. Okay, they're ignorant. Okay, they're misinformed. No, it's not working anymore. If you can justify burning the babies alive in an oven and you call it resistance, I have nothing more to tell you. The conversation.
I mean, there's nowhere to go because it's basically they ignore that it ever happened. They just deny it happened. This is the problem. They can't engage with you, and they will not be able to justify it because they will not accept that it was reality or it happened. And that is the biggest problem. How can you convince people? So I don't think they're justifying burning babies. They're denying that even happened.
No. I've heard not one, many who say, yes, it's resistance. Yes, it's justified to rape women. And I put several times on Twitter, I said the resistance in France did not rape or kidnap or murder
burn babies.
Okay, the Nazis did. But the thing is that, listen, the left has been on the sides of these guys for a long time.
Well, it stems back to Cold War allies. I mean, this idea of anti-imperialism and anti-West.
Exactly, and Israel is an imperialist because it's allied with America.
The US.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we know their thing. We have to come to a point that we don't care. We don't care what you call us because we know who we are. Okay, today, what do we do with that? What do you want us to do? You want us to say goodbye, Hamas? Thank you very much for all you did on October 7th. Have a good day. We're going to throw you a few millions and some trucks here. There's 1,000 trucks arriving. I mean, if you see how much Israel is giving the Gazawi compared to Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, 10 times the amount of food, medicine, electricity, and water. So, fuck off. The anti-Israel crowd, fuck you. We don't care anymore. It's not that they don't know. They willingly are siding with evil. So fuck off. I don't care. But anyway, let's talk about the rest of Trump.
I guess the main thing really was just about the Gaza was the big one. That was the big one. I'm just thinking logistically how it's supposed to look, or how it's going to work, and what it will look like, and who will be residents of it. And I'm wondering if it's going to be something along those lines. A type of global, international territory that doesn't belong to anyone necessarily, and just is administered totally by the free market, which is, or AI. I'm not quite sure where it's going, but I think, the fact that, Sam Altman, Stargate, that was within day 2 of inauguration. He pulled Sam Altman in from OpenAI and just basically said, this is what we're doing. So I suspect there is a big AI push, a big AI push by Trump and the Americans. So I'm wondering if that's what their plan is for Gaza. I'm not sure, but let's just see. Panama Canal's interesting. Your thoughts?
He's right.
Yeah.
He's right. America built a canal and Carter sold it for $1 to Panama. Again, the anti-imperialist crowd are going to say, whatever, America is imperialist. The imperial America is starting again. No, you're giving it. We gave you that. We paid for it with money and lives, and now you're giving it to China. It ain't happening. And it's the same, I think, with Greenland. I think that's the same
sentiment. Is there Chinese interests in there? And that's what.
Yeah.
Well, China is a tour de force everywhere, if you look at it. But I mean, the irony of all ironies is this. I'm going to end it on this Black History Month that's happening right now. And we all have to constantly be bombarded with narrative about Black history as if it's entitled to its own whole month. No one else is, funnily enough. Yet at the same time, your very Black ancestors who are contemporaries living in Africa are being exploited, enslaved, colonized by your dear friend China, and there is silence. Nothing. Complete and utter silence on this. I mean, that for me just shows how pitiful these people are when it comes to understanding history and understanding contemporary politics and what's happening. I mean, there is such hypocrisy anyway.
I love when you always tell me, Linda, they're performative
activists. It's totally performative. But for a side that they perceive is, the morally virtuous one. But I mean, I had to endure. I'm going to leave it on that. But I had to endure some things in my own workplace where there's all these activists coming and giving speeches to school students. And I mean, at what point we'll have to have a discussion about where education's going in our next podcast. But I think it might be the next one is, where does education become activism? And is that permitted? And should that be permitted? Because that's what's happening right now. On the back of the LGBT Pride Month, I mean, they already have a whole month dedicated to them, but that seems to filter through every other time as well. And then Black History Month. And so you've got these whole months where all we're allowed to do is discuss the ongoing victimhood of these individuals and blame
the West. It's incredible because I don't know. I think I shared with you this video of this guy that was saying that there's like 12 countries in Africa that are fighting. I mean, like Islamic jihad, jihadists. Where are the Black History Month? Hello.
Where's the current history? Where's your Black care for now, for Africans right now?
But once I had sent a message to Al Sharpton once where I say, okay, you here speaking about slavery. That is no more. Why don't you talk about slavery that is? That is. Like blacks are, there is a slave trade of Africans in Muslim countries.
There is.
Why don't you speak about it? You know why he doesn't speak about it? Because he's getting money from Qatar also.
Of course.
All these people, the UN, we know they're hypocrites. They don't care about anybody. Like the other day, somebody was speaking about the Grammys and about some declaration of Alicia Keys and I said, they don't care about anybody. They don't. They pretend.
Performative activism. That's it. Performative.
But in reality, they are the worst. Because if Alicia Keys, you really cared about your Black brothers and sisters, go and have a trip in Libya. No, make a trip to Libya. But no, you're too busy condemning the country that made you rich and famous.
Exactly.
It's the same. What I wanted to talk about, we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah.
it's a Doge, like people are upset. We need to talk about it.
People are upset that they're discovering how much money they've actually lost. Not the money they've lost. They're upset that you had the gall to tell us that our government's corrupt. I mean, it's outrageous. Do you have a what the F for the week?
Oh, what the F of the week? But what the F of the week would be all these people, like going after DOGE, I mean Doge, after Elon Musk, when the guy is trying to save your money, the money that the taxes that you pay that are going to fund. Did you see what they're going to fund? I mean, like, I was looking at items that they found, the money wasted, and I said, it's like, it's been going on for years, and you're upset at the men?
Yes, that's the lunacy of the world we live in, definitely. Yeah. My what the F is definitely Beyonce winning Best Country Album. The whole charade was a what the F. Exactly.
I know.
The whole Grammys is a what the F for me. The whole thing.
But what the F? Why are we still having this show? We know they're rigged.
Everything's rigged. I'll even go as the Super Bowl tonight is rigged as well, but we'll leave that at that, right?
There is, I don't know if it's true or not, but they were said that there were some leaks that the Chiefs were going to win. And then the guy is going to ask, what's her name, Taylor Swift, to marry him or whatever. And I don't know if it's true because there's so much BS on the internet.
Of course.
But there is a lot of people say, if this is happening, I will never watch the NFL again. I don't know. Let's see
what happens.
Anyway.
Speak soon.
Please like and subscribe. And ask, you can comment. We would welcome your comment.
Welcome. And even disagreements, please write them down. Happy to engage in a chat.
Exactly. And Sophie, have a wonderful week.
You too, Linda. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.